Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or whenever you're watching me right now. My name is Jay Luke, the owner and operator of the Passionate Network, where we amplify the voices, elevate the culture, and champion the musicians. I'm also the host of Talk That Talk. Remember, you can get any of our merchandise right here on this channel. All you got to do is click on whatever you want. And once you get down to the end, you can get 30% off your final purchase. Just type in HBCU band. Remember, again, you can get 30% off your final purchase. Just type in HBCU band and go ahead and click that like button, subscribe button, and turn on notifications. Let me go ahead and jump into this, man. I had the opportunity to sit down and think for a while, and really it's been something that with this whole process of BOTY that I've had the opportunity to think a lot, right? And then we had this joint come out with Jackson State, and I got another video coming out with that. So be on the lookout for that. But we've had a lot of conversations here on the Passionate Network about Battle of the Bands and so on and so forth. So I'm gonna go a couple of different angles with this. So just be with me on this, right? First of all, remember about a year or so ago, maybe 3 years ago, and it was happening for a while. We had this long situation or stint of multiple Battle of the Bands. Like every time you turn around, there was a Battle of the Band popping up, Battle of the Band here, Battle of the Band there, whatever. What I liked about this year specifically is that the number of Battle of the Bands changed. And I think that was great for everyone, right? I think that was great for university band programs. I think high school Battle of the Bands are still doing their thing, multiple throughout a year. But I think even those numbers died down. And we did a show once that was talking about the super saturation of the market of Battle of the Bands. And then BOTY rolls around. And let me be very clear that specifically on this channel, we, as an organization, as a group, have always advocated for adjudicated battles when it comes to HBCUs. But when I start to think about BOTY and their process, and again, this is not about BOTY, so I want to make it very clear. But someone had a conversation with me, and I had to rebuttal quite a few times because the conversation was, adjudicated battles will never be fair. And my response to that is, I don't agree with that. And the reason why I don't agree with that is because of the fact that it has to be done right. And so let me go back a few steps. I do not consider Battle of the Bands as we typically know it as Battle of the Bands. They're showcases. Technically, in my opinion, we're just showcasing what the programs do, how well they are, and who likes what, right? To me, a Battle of the Bands is going to always, anything that you say is going to be a battle is going to have a definitive winner. Whether you're talking about battling on the basketball court or battling on the football field or battling in baseball or battling in wrestling or battling in the UFC or battling in boxing, some type of battle is going to have a definitive winner. Even if we're talking about war, we're still going to talk about a battle between two cities, two countries, two states, or whatever. And at the end, someone won and someone lost. That's the way that I perceive it. With that being said, we have multiple Battle of the Bands that don't have a definitive winner. It's always based on the personal thought process of anybody who's watching. And people leave with their specific thought process of who they like and who they felt won. The reason why I think it's great or a good thing to have an adjudicated performance or an adjudicated battle or just an adjudicated whatever is two reasons. The first reason is because of the fact that it gives you checks and balances. It gives you something to shoot for. It gives you a way to be able to say, you know what? This is what the judges say that we need to work on to be better. And so this is what we're going to go work on to make ourselves better. The other reason, specifically in a university setting, an HBCU setting, I'll go there because this conversation is not for PWI. So I want to make that clear. But the other reason is because the idea is the fact that the high school programs and the middle school programs look up to high schools. Now, if you have somebody who's in middle school that they know about a lot of band, then they're also looking up to university bands too. But the middle schools are looking up to the high schools. The high schools are supposed to be looking up to the universities. And if the middle schoolers and the high schoolers on average are adjudicated and are comfortable with being adjudicated and are used to being adjudicated, then why is it that when we get to the university, it's all of a sudden, oh man, we can't be adjudicated? No, you can. But the problem is, it's two problems. One, there are just some directors out there, and I'm just going to keep it a buck. There are some directors out there who don't want to be adjudicated because they don't want the reality of the fact that their crap stinks. My product is not as great as I think it is because we've had X amount of people to be able to say my stuff isn't that good. Simple. And then the other part about it, when we start dealing with us, and this is the main thing that I wanted to get into, is we always want to argue about fair. We always want to talk about who's going to be the judge. We like all of these different things, right? Here's the reality of it. Again, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. There is nothing that's going to be 100% correct, great, accurate, whatever, however you want to slice it. However, what I do believe, because first of all, let's be real. Judging is subjective. We all need to be very mindful of that, right? And that fact. All judging is subjective, even if you go by a rubric, because I can hear, I can't even think of the song right now or the piece right now, but I can hear a piece and I can have a judge sitting right next to me and they can hear a piece. And yes, they're listening for balance and blend, clarity, so on and so forth. And we're all listening for those things, those criterias, right? But at the same time, the interpretation of how that band played it could be different than the judge next to me, right? So like the judge next to me could have wanted to interpret it a different way. And the way that the band played it, in my opinion, was great. So I think those things are subjective, right? But then you also have, your rubric. And as long as they follow the rubric, then that should be the response or the result, right? So when it comes to adjudicated battles, the problem is the fact that I just don't believe wholeheartedly that we have truly sat and thought this through. Because when it comes to HBCUs, we are different. We just are. So there has to be a way to be able to outline the best way to attack what we do in a large scale. Now, that may mean that some more finances may have to be put towards it. That may mean that we need to really think outside of the box. But it also means that we also have to shift our mindset in how we process things. Me as a person who came up, who was born in the 80s, lived in the 80s, lived in the 90s, came up in band in the 90s and 2000s era, late 90s, early 2000s era, so on and so forth. And basically I was taught by 80s and 90s people. I have a thought process of band that is different from what the culture specifically is now. But I'm also objective enough to open my eyes and see that the culture has shifted. Do I like everything that the culture has shifted to? Absolutely not. But am I open to be able to see the change that it's making and realizing that there has to be some incorporation of change? Yes. I say that to say that if you're going to have adjudicated battles specifically for HBCUs, then you're going to have to open it up to the things too that make HBCUs HBCUs. I don't think that you should run away from halftime. As a matter of fact, I think that field shows, in my opinion, should be the thing that's graded on the most. I also think that that's where you get your level of creativity from. I think that's where you get your pageantry from. And at the end of the day, you are a marching band. However, when it comes to HBCUs, I also think there's another component that you need to add to that. And I think that is the stands part. And when it comes to adding that, what does that look like to be judged? Like I see a lot of people who have gotten on BOTY because they don't have a stands portion. Okay, fine. What does that look like to be judged? I mean, if from a rubric standpoint, if we're just looking at clarity, balance and blend, so on and so forth, there are a lot of bands that just probably wouldn't make the running. because a lot of us base what we decide on what's good as loud. So I think it's possible to be able to judge, but it has to be judged fairly. It has to be fair, and it has to be in a way that can be agreeable to the masses and or the culture. And again, that doesn't mean that everybody's going to be 100% on the side of, but it does mean that the majority, by and large, will agree and say, hey, I think this is a great idea. I think that we should go forward with this. The other half of that, and the final thing that I'm thinking about at the end of the day is this. We have to, when it comes to adjudication, be very open to who our judges are. Because the people who are the judges are going to determine whether people feel like it's fair or not. If I am a judge whose tenure of band is 1970s, and I'm just using this as an example, I'm not calling out anybody. I just want to say that. And I'm not necessarily 100% connected to what the culture is now, then it's going to be difficult for people to accept the fact that I'm judging on this particular scale, unless you have different judges for different captions for different categories. I think that is going to be able to determine how people feel about judging. I think that you definitely need to have a different level of judging or different judges for each caption, for each category, and almost any other time you judge. That's just my opinion. So at the end of the day, listen, there is no one who is going to get something 100% right. There just isn't. Not in life. But I think that if we shoot for the majority of trying to make sure that we connect what we do, I think that we'll have a greater success and an outcome of what we're trying to get. Because at the end of the day, if I'm not mistaken, it should be about supporting the programs, supporting the cultures, truly supporting the culture, not trying to cash grab the culture, but supporting the culture. And then at the end, and then the last thing is making sure the kids are not only having a good time, but most importantly, being educated, in my opinion. So you guys tell me what you think. Like I said, I got another one coming out real soon talking about this Jackson State thing. I think it's very interesting, and we will cover that. But you guys tell me what you guys think inside of the comment section. Do you think that HBCU bands even need to be adjudicated? Or do you think that we just got to just do it the way it is and just do this free for all? Or do you want to do you think it should be continued with the Honda model, which is, the old school Honda model? This new one is a little different, but everybody just voting on who you think it is. I think at the end of the day, they ended up picking who they wanted to go pick anyway. But even still, if y'all remember the old Honda, remember that one where an A&T won? I know a lot of people didn't like that either. And that was by vote. And that was voting from the people in the room. So even if you have people pick, do you all think that even if they're picking someone to go to these performances, that it should still be adjudicated? Y'all tell me inside of the comment section. I want to hear all of your thoughts. Also, man, don't forget 30% off your purchase when you type in HBCU band. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. And I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.